Good morning, day traders, and welcome to Market Minute, a hedge fund trader's technical analysis for Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Let's get after it. So we do have a little bit of economic or news, or at least some economic headlines we do need to be sort of cautious of here today. We have a lot of Fed speakers kind of muddying the waters from sort of this 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. time frame. So that could cause a little bit of friction here in this market today. No idea why they love talking so much. They all want to be celebrities. It's just a little bit annoying when they want to get involved here. That being said, right, we need to be a little bit cautious of the narrative that these markets are showing us as well, right? Really thin volume profile there yesterday after what was a really nice sort of hammer bullish engulfing bounce. So if we're going to get that momentum, if we're going to get that sort of further follow through here today, we'd like to see a nice pop over that 458 target. Once you're able to get sort of that range, we certainly have a little bit of room up towards that 459, 460 area. But like I said, right, this sort of lack of volume, this sort of lack of momentum, lack of relative strength makes me a little bit nervous here with the SPY. Similar narrative here on QQQ. We have that hammer bullish engulfing candle, but then kind of that poor volume profile. Now a little bit maybe of a stronger volume, right, bar than say something we had there on the SPY, but it's a relative term here. So still looking for that sort of momentum up and over sort of this 372.30. And if we are able to get that momentum follow through, we've got some levels here to the left-hand side, kind of that early mid-January, right? January 20th, 19th, and 18th seems to be sort of our upper resistance. Above sort of yesterday's high, we kind of have a bunch of half levels here in between. Maybe more evidence than one would like to see of sort of rejections inside this zone. So if we're going to break out of this consolidation, break out of this so-called bull flag pattern, right? Kind of looks like this. Here's your bull flag. Then we'd like to see that momentum and break out over sort of the high of this range, which for me is that 372.30 target. It's a similar narrative here on Apple as we're kind of creeping up towards sort of upper trend line resistance, right? Not the maybe strongest volume profile, maybe not the strongest sort of candlestick combo profile, right, with those volume bars. We'd like to see that momentum step in and push this thing up and over that 180 target. If we're able to do that, then we've kind of reestablished or broken through that sort of trend. We've kind of reestablished new higher highs and make that test of previous all-time highs very likely. So it needs a little bit of momentum here, still needs a little bit more strength, but Apple certainly has a little bit of potential here this AM. Really like how much it climbed up yesterday on that hammer bullish engulfing candle bounce. So certainly seems like that momentum is there, but now I want to see that volume profile tell us that same consistent narrative. Tesla for me is looking like maybe the strongest looking setup here this morning after yesterday's bull flag breakout, right? So this is something we talked about yesterday in the market minute. It certainly seems like we're getting really good follow through here so far today. Now our upper resistance is at 1151. And if we're able to sort of clear that barrier, it seems like we've got $20 room up towards the sort of 1170 target. There's very minimal resistance here, right, in between. So we should have a lot of space up. Now I'm going to respect sort of round numbers here and assume resistance at sort of 1160, right, and then 1170, but there's no real price action here that got stuck at that barrier, so I'm not going to get too attached to that number. And it also gives us an opportunity to be very patient here, waiting for this thing to be absolutely perfect before it gives us that breakout up and over. So definitely love the potential here on Tesla, and through that 1150 has room towards that 1170 before it gets a little bit sticky at 1175 and then explodes again towards that 1190 barrier. Microsoft looks a lot like Apple here to me with that sort of green hammer bullish engulfing bounce, but still needs to sort of break out of this sort of consolidation pattern here. Now, if we can clear this 317 on volume, then Microsoft starts to move like $2 at a time towards that 319, 321, 323 areas. It certainly looks like it has some potential to be exciting and interesting here today. But again, right, this volume profile is a little bit disappointing. We could look for sort of a maybe volume divergence breakdown potentially, but I still think there's maybe a little bit more bullish than bearish momentum here, and we'd like to see that volume step in to sort of defend that thesis. AMD is giving us a really similar or a really strong looking sort of inside bar here yesterday, right? Bouncing off of this sort of trend line, right? Nice little hammer inside bar. Wasn't able to make a higher high, wasn't able to make a lower low. So now if we're able to sort of clear this 112 barrier, should have a little bit of space up towards that 113.30 and then eventually that 115 area. Need to be a little bit cautious though here still, as that March 31st volume and then that April 1st volume still really hasn't been invalidated. And although it's a nice sign of sort of weak sellers, right? Sellers weren't able to sort of reclaim control here. We're at the very thin volume. Still need to be a little bit cautious here until this AMD gives us a little bit more information that invalidates sort of the relative strength we saw to the downside here late last week. NVIDIA, similar story, right? Kind of consolidation here, kind of that low vol pullback, not quite bullish engulfing, made higher highs, but we're not able to sustain them. Still, I wouldn't say that momentum is dead or that this thesis is sort of killed here, but we want to see this thing break out over this 276.50 ASAP on volume for a move towards that sort of 280 barrier. The great thing about this NVIDIA here this morning is we've got very nice sort of levels to play with to the upside. So past this 276.50, we've got a lot of room up towards that sort of 280. And then past 280, we've got a lot of room up towards that sort of 283.50. So that gives us a lot of opportunity to sort of wait for that perfect confirmation candle, right? Where volume and candlesticks sort of tell us that perfect consistent narrative. One thing that I want to be always cautious of here with this NVIDIA and AMD is if it doesn't give me that increasing outlier volume off the opening 15, 30 minutes, it's pretty hard to trust that sort of move on this thing here normally. So generally get a really big pop off that 30-min, and if we aren't able to get that pop, then it's gonna be really hard for us to get that sort of follow through here. And then last but not least, going to be looking for a little bit of continuation strength here on Facebook, right? So really good kind of full body candle there with that sort of increasing volume. Didn't quite get to outlier on a sympathy play there from Twitter, but Twitter's still showing us some relative strength here this AM. If Facebook can clear this 235.70 area, certainly has a lot of room up towards that 239 and then that 240 zone. And then past 240, we've got really nice very minimal resistance right until that sort of 248 barrier. Once we clear 248, there's a really big gap, and I'd imagine that gap gets pretty aggressively defended, especially if we try to get there today. So I wouldn't really be super interested in chasing moves past that target. So that's how I plan on dominating today's action. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you want to follow my day trades live, you can start your free 7-day trial at thedaytradinglivestream.com. Otherwise, have yourselves a fantastic session and talk to you all tomorrow for the next Market Minute.